The objectives for this video are to review terms ratio and rate, and to learn how to compute the unit rate. Okay, so starting with ratio. When applying to college, the counselor said that the ratio of boys to girls is 2 to 3. So first, we have to know the meaning of this. Okay, now in this sentence, boys is mentioned first, and the number 2 is mentioned first. Girls is mentioned second, and the number 3 is mentioned second. So the 2 belongs with the boys, and the 3 belongs with the girls. Now, when you're writing a meaning, your sentence is always going to start with for every. Okay, so what this means, it means for every 2 boys, remember 2 corresponds with boys, there are 3 girls. For every 2 boys, there are 3 girls. Okay, and there are different ways we'll write this in symbols. Okay, first is the words like it's written, 2 to 3. You may also see a colon, 2 to 3. You'll see a fraction, 2 over 3. And later on, you may also see an ordered pair, which means a point on a graph, 2, 3. Okay. So what this means, it means for every 2 boys, there are 3 girls. It doesn't mean that there are 2 boys and 3 girls. It means every time I have 2 boys, I have 3 more girls. So there may be 4 boys and 6 girls. Every time I have 2 boys, I have 3 more girls. Okay, so it's just the relationship between boys and girls. Okay, let's talk about rate. Unit rate, also called the value sometimes. Okay, and take the time to copy this. Unit rate. Okay. We're going to divide our ratio. And what the value tells us, it tells us how many of the first unit for one of the second unit. Okay, they're looking for how much for one item or how much for each. Like if there's a pack of Gatorade, a 4-pack, well, I don't want 4 Gatorades, I want to know how much for one. Okay, so when you see that word unit, the UNI, think of the number 1. Like a unicorn has 1 horn. Unit rate, how much for one? Okay, so here are 2 examples. I paid $2 for 5 drinks. How much was 1 drink? Okay, so it's $2 for 5 drinks. How much for 1 drink? So how can I make this fraction to a fraction with 1 drink on the bottom? What would I have to divide the 5 by to turn it into a 1? Well, 5 divided by 5 would be 1. Okay, so I'm going to do the same to the top. 2 divided by 5, I'll put that in my calculator. 2 divided by 5 is 0.4. Okay, now I'm going to add a 0 at the end because we're talking about money. So it would be 40 cents for 1 drink. Okay, and the second one, a store charges $1.80 for 3 bananas. How much is each? Okay, so it's $1.80 for 3 bananas. I want to know how much is it for 1 banana. So I'm going to have to divide by 3. 3 divided by 3 in the denominator would be 1, and in the numerator, $1.80 divided by 3. Put that in the calculator, you would get 0.6. And since we're talking about money, we'll always write it to the hundredths place. We'll go 1 more decimal place. So it's 60 cents for 1 banana. Okay, and when you're reading this, 60 cents, you are going to use a decimal and the dollar sign, because it really means $0.60. Okay, I want to talk about some important rates, some applications that you'll see in real life. Okay, so one thing is when you're buying things at the store. Okay, some items are sold by the item, but some are sold like by the weight. Like you may see cold cuts at the deli. They're sold by the pound. They'll say it's $7 per pound. Okay, you'll see some things may be sold by the ounce, dollars per ounce. And some things are just sold by the item, how much for the item. But notice in all three of those examples, the money is in the numerator. A lot of the times we'll say cash is king. What that means is, most of the time, money is the numerator. Okay, another application, when you start to drive. So we're talking about cars, and we're talking about the speed. Okay, the speed limit signs that you see on the side of the road, for example, 55. Well, think about what the units are. 55 miles per hour. Okay, that's a ratio. It's a comparison of two things. When you start driving and you're talking about your car's gas mileage, how good it is on gas, that's written in miles per gallon. How many miles can your car go on 1 gallon of gas? Miles per gallon. Right, and another common ratio and rate that we'll have to be familiar with is when you start getting paid. A lot of jobs get paid by the hour. So you can say, how many dollars per hour do you make? You may see jobs that get paid by the day. How many dollars per day? You can talk about how much you make in a week. And sometimes you say, how much do you make in a year? Other ways they may refer to these as is the first one, they may say that, how much do you make hourly? Okay, that means how much per hour. How much do you make daily? How much do you make weekly or yearly? But again, notice for those examples, the money, the cash is king. The money is in the numerator. All right, let's go through some unit rate problems now. Now, when you're doing these problems, I want you to underline, or if you can, highlight the order of the units in the question. Okay, so this problem mentioned in 5 hours I drove 200 miles. What is my average rate or my average speed in miles per hour? Okay, so I'm looking at the way it's presented in the question. I'm not paying attention to the original problem where it said hours first and miles second. I want to know the speed in miles per hour. Okay, so the final question will show which one to put on top and which one to put on bottom. Okay, so we did 200 miles in 5 hours. Okay, and you would put that in the calculator just the way you see it. 200 divided by 5. That fraction bar means divide. So from top to bottom, 200 divided by 5 is 40. So your speed was 40 miles per hour. All right, again, you're going to focus on the question to see the order that you make your ratio and the order that you divide. Okay, so here I'm going to skip all the way to the question. Who got the better gas mileage in miles per gallon? Okay, so miles should be my numerator and gallon should be my denominator. So let's see. Now it says John had 6 gallons of gas and drove 240 miles. So 240 is the miles, I'll put that on top. 6 is the gallons, I'll put that on bottom. And we're comparing that to Emily. Emily drove 300 miles. Okay, miles goes on top on 10 gallons. Gallons goes on bottom. So for John's, I would do 240 divided by 6. That's 40 miles per gallon. And Emily, 300 divided by 10, that's 30 miles per gallon. So who got the better gas mileage? The answer here is going to be John. John's car can go 40 miles on 1 gallon. Okay, remember what unit rate is. We're figuring out how much for 1 unit of the second. So he can go 40 miles on 1 gallon of gas. Emily can only go 30 miles on her 1 gallon of gas. Okay, so I would like to go through 3 more examples before you try one out. Okay, here Mike paid $4.50 for a 6-pack of Gatorade. Brian bought a 4-pack for $3.20. Who got the better deal for each Gatorade? So they're asking here how much for 1 Gatorade. So I'm going to compare the money to the Gatorades. Okay, I want to figure out how much for 1. When I'm figuring out the unit rate, the one that I want to know 1 for, that's my denominator. Also remember, cash is king. Cash is my numerator here. Okay, so Mike's side paid $4.50 for a 6-pack. On Brian's side, he paid $3.20 for a 4-pack. Again, notice I had to switch the order for Brian. I had to put the money on top and the Gatorades on bottom. Okay, so I'm just going to put that in my calculator. 4.50 divided by 6 to get 75 cents for Mike, and 3.20 divided by 4, I get 80 cents for each Gatorade for Brian. Okay, so now I want the better one. The better deal. I'm talking about money. I want the cheaper one. Mike is the better deal than Brian. Okay, in 40 hours I made $1,280. What is my hourly? Again, another way they'll phrase these questions. That means how much do I make per hour? Okay, so I want to know how much per hour. How much money do I make in 1 hour? Okay, I'm going to do dollars per hour. Okay, so for this, the money cash will go on top, divided by 40. Put that in the calculator just the way you see it. 1,280 divided by 40, and I get $32 per hour. Okay, that is my unit rate. I make $32 in 1 hour. Alright, here's one more that we'll do together. In 6 hours, I can read 183 pages. What is my average hourly rate? That means how much per hour. Okay, so this time it's not money, it's pages. How many pages can I read in 1 hour? Okay, per hour. Okay, this per is your division bar here. Pages per hour. So 183 pages divided by 6 hours. 183 divided by 6. And you can read 30.5, 30 and a half pages in 1 hour. Alright, here's one for you to try. Okay. Remember to look at the question to see the order to make your ratio. And you're going to compare Ava's speed to Nick's speed. Please pause the video and try that one out. Okay, hopefully for Ava, you did 201 divided by 3. You got to do the miles per divided by the hours. So 201 divided by 3 is 67 miles per hour. And on Nick's side, 272 miles in 4 hours. So 272 divided by 4. He drove 68 miles per hour. So who was faster? Nick was a little bit faster. 68 is faster than 67. Okay, if you still have time, I want you to go back and review the notes. Okay, make sure you know the meaning of ratio, the symbols to write ratio, and make sure you know how to find the unit rate. Okay, remember unit rate, look at uni, that prefix means 1. How much for 1 unit?